Did you know the CIA once ran secret experiments to control the human mind? They called it Project MKUltra. It began as a Cold War obsession, but what started as national security turned into one of the darkest chapters in American history. People were drugged, hypnotized, tortured, and many never even knew they were part. Picture this: the early 1950s, a time bursting with change, excitement, and endless possibilities. Can you feel that vibe? The world had just come out of World War II, and the Cold War was starting to heat up. It was a time of tension and change everywhere you looked. The CIA was terrified of Soviet and Chinese brainwashing. Rumors that enemy governments had discovered ways to control people's thoughts. So the CIA decided to fight fire with fire. In 1953, director Alan Dulles approved a secret project, MKUltra. Its mission: explore every possible way to manipulate the human mind. Behind those closed CIA lab doors, things went from weird to downright crazy. Fast! You wouldn't believe the wild experiments and strange happenings that went down in there. Scientists were basically told to toss ethics and consent out the window. Just get results, no matter what. One agent wrote, "We are attempting to control an individual to the point where he will do our bidding, against his will." MKUltra operated in complete secrecy. Over 150 sub-projects spread across hospitals, prisons, universities, and military bases. You know, nobody even had a clue about this secret CIA program. The stuff they did was absolutely mind-blowing. Can you believe it? Prisoners were actually given huge doses of LSD, like every day for weeks. How wild is that? Prostitutes hired by the agency lured men into hidden rooms where every movement was filmed, while the men were unknowingly drugged. Soldiers were totally trapped in a nightmare, reliving their worst memories, or even fake ones. One CIA scientist even tested electroshock and sensory deprivation, trying to erase a person's mind completely, then reprogram them like machines. Most of the victims never volunteered. Some were patients in hospitals. Some were ordinary citizens who simply went missing. One of the craziest and most disturbing cases was Dr. Frank Olson, a government scientist who got caught up in some wild stuff. Picture this. Back in 1953, he ended up at this crazy CIA retreat with all those MKUltra folks, right? It was totally wild. During dinner, someone secretly slipped him LSD, and a few days later, he started to lose his grip on reality. He turned to his wife and said, "I just can't sleep. It feels like someone's watching me, you know? It's like I'm in a horror movie or something." He asked to quit the project, but before he could, he fell from a 13th-story hotel window in New York. The CIA called it suicide, but years later, a new autopsy revealed head trauma before the fall, suggesting he'd been knocked unconscious and pushed. Frank Olson was becoming a huge issue, just like so many other MKUltra victims, right? You know, there's a lot of talk about how his death was totally covered up. It's like, what really happened behind the scenes? People are curious, right? MKUltra expanded into terrifying areas. Doctors experimented on mental patients, addicts, even children. In one hospital, a 7-year-old girl was given LSD and isolated for days. Her reactions recorded. At McGill University in Canada, psychiatrist Dr. Ewan Cameron used electroshock therapy strong enough to erase entire memories, then played repeated audio loops to rebuild personalities. Patients entered his care for depression or anxiety. Many left unable to speak, walk, or remember their own names. The CIA called it behavioral engineering. But for the victims, it was a total nightmare, like living in a horror movie. It was honestly like pure psychological torture. You know, just so incredibly intense. I mean, It felt like my brain was on fire the whole time. For 2 whole decades, MKUltra was sneaky, lurking in the shadows, totally off the radar. Congress had no clue it was even a thing. When journalists asked, they got shut down with "It's classified." Can you believe that? But in 1973, when the project risked exposure during the Watergate scandal, CIA Director Richard Helms ordered all MKUltra files destroyed. Thousands of documents, poof, just like that. Can you believe it? Officially, MKUltra never happened, right? It's just wild, huh? A few boxes of files somehow slipped through the cracks and are just chilling in a financial archive, totally relaxed and waiting for someone to notice them. 2 years later, when they were finally found, everything flipped upside down. And wow, the truth just came pouring out like a waterfall. The hearings that followed uncovered some seriously chilling details. People treated like test subjects, right? It's just wild how inhumane things got. You know, minds broken in the name of patriotism, and victims who were never compensated. Because technically, there was no record they existed. The US government eventually admitted MKUltra was real. President Ford and later Congress issued apologies, but no one was ever convicted. It's really heartbreaking, you know? Those victims are stuck with lifelong trauma and got nothing in return. It's just so unfair. Some of the scientists who led the experiments went on to teach at universities or continued to work in government research. Others simply vanished. And the question remains, if MKUltra ended in the 1970s, why do modern intelligence documents still reference behavioral control research? Did it ever really stop? Or did it just dig deeper underground, you know? It's like a game of hide and seek, right? The mind is seriously the last frontier of control. You know, MKUltra really showed us how fragile it can be. It's wild. They tried to erase memories, rewrite thoughts, and bend human will. But in the end, they erased something far greater: trust. Trust in the people meant to protect us. Trust in truth itself. So the next time you hear a story too strange to believe, MKUltra, remember that. It all kicked off with fear and some seriously wild experiments, right? It's like something straight out of a crazy movie. Curiosity without a conscience can really lead to some serious trouble. You know, it's like poking around where you shouldn't, and that can get messy fast. The human mind is super powerful, right? But in the wrong hands, it can be downright scary. Thanks for tuning in.